Let's talk about what's coming up on today's show. We look at the Memphis Grizzlies. Are they really a legit threat to win a championship? Plus, the Jets lose a backup quarterback. So what does that mean for Geno Smith or Mark Sanchez? But just as mentioned, the Thunder is out. So let's talk about it. Last year's finalists have been eliminated in the semifinals of the playoffs at the hands of the Memphis Grizzlies, 88-84. The small market big play left Kevin Durant and the Thunder confused on both sides of the ball. But without Russell Westbrook, does KD deserve a pass, Skip Bayless?
That is a very good question, Kerry Champion. Stephen A. Smith, I'm going to say it again. Obviously, or to use your word, clearly, the Oklahoma City Thunder would have been better in this series, or any series, with Russell Westbrook. They would have been much better with James Harden, but that's a whole nother topic that we could talk about. Here's my position. Scott Brooks said after the game last night that he thought his team was still good enough to win this series without Russell Westbrook. And I agree, which is why, Stephen A., today, I am giving Kevin Durant 0 pass for the last 4 games, all of which the Thunder lost. 2 of them at home, including last night's clinching Game 5 for the Memphis Grizzlies. I must admit to you, Stephen A., I lost a lot of respect over those 4 games for a man I've called, since his days at Texas, my favorite player, Kevin Durant. For the guy I call the most gifted scorer in all of basketball. For a guy I call proven clutch shooting. And yet, Stephen A., even without Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant's Thunder were in position to win all 5 games, in great late position to win all 5. And Kevin Durant was great in Game 1. Did he ever close that one? Yet he failed 4 straight times, including last night, when as bad as he was. Can we see that play? The last shot, 4 seconds left, 4.9. Kevin Durant has a virtual free throw, 16 feet, rising up over a Tony Allen who's, 5-6 inches shorter than he is? And he missed it. What a horrendous night for Kevin Durant, Stephen A., when he often looked lost and out of control as Russell Westbrook was on his worst night. Kevin Durant last night goes 5 for 21. He misses all 4 of his 3-point shots. He had 7 completely out of control turnovers. And let me just close the case for you on this. As great a defense as the Memphis Grizzlies play, and it is really good, the crushing numbers on Kevin Durant are these. Late and close numbers. In those last 4 games, Kevin Durant went 1 for 7, 0 for 2 from 3, and 1 for 4 from the free throw line for a guy who made 91% of his free throws during the regular season. In the last 2 fourth quarters and that overtime that ended Game 4, Kevin Durant went 3 for 18. 2 fourth quarters and overtime, 3 for 18. I'm sorry, no pass for the guy who was clearly the best player on that basketball court.
Well, Skip, I got news for you. I don't blame you for not giving him a pass, and I can side with you on that. But I think you're exercising in cruelty and a harsh level of insensitivity here when you come to him in terms of saying you lost respect for him. I think that's utterly ridiculous. Let's deal with, first of all, not giving him a pass. In the end, what it comes down to is this. Yeah, you can look at him and you could say that he performed horribly last night. Shoot 23%, 5 of 21 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3-point range, missing that wide open shot, not having the ability to close on 3 separate occasions in this series. There's no doubt about that. We would judge Melo harshly. We have judged LeBron harshly. We would judge Kobe Bryant harshly. We would judge Dwayne Wade harshly. Okay? So when you take all of those things into account, there is no doubt that Kevin Durant does not deserve a pass. I will not refute you on that. You are absolutely on the money. But I think you go a little bit too far when you start talking about how you've lost respect for him. Let's analyze this series here. And stay with me for a second. It's the 35 points, 36 points, 25, and 27 points before last night. Watch his field goal percentage shooting, how it dipped. 50, 52, then 47 in the first 3 games, then the last 2, 37, and then 23%. That's not Kevin Durant like. That's not something he customarily does. And because we've seen him close and have a sniper's mentality, an assassin's mentality in closing out games in the past with Russell Westbrook on the floor, clearly there was not panic in his soul. He wasn't scared. He didn't choke. The ball just didn't go in. It didn't fall. The other part that needs to be recognized is what I keep telling you about this guy, which is why I believe he will get better from this. Not being assertive enough and what have you, and then all of a sudden being put in that lion's den when it was called upon him to do so. That was foreign territory. Going up against an elite defensive team like the Memphis Grizzlies is another issue, Skip Bayless, because they're big and they're solid. You've got an elite defender in Tony Allen. You've got boys on your front line in Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol. Not easy to get to the hole against them. You got Mike Conley, who is an underrated point guard, plays exceptional defense as well. You've got Tayshaun Prince, who helped Detroit win a championship and get to 2 NBA finals simply because he was a stout defender. Remember the problems occasionally that he would try to cause LeBron? Wasn't always that effective, but if somebody was capable of pestering LeBron, it was Tayshaun Prince, who's long, who's lanky, like a Kevin Durant, and could cause some problems. So if you have all of these things going on, I understand why he didn't produce. That doesn't mean he gets a pass. It doesn't mean that I don't sit there and hold him accountable, Skip. But to then sit there and say, you've lost respect for him, I think that's going a bit too far because I don't think he deserves it, number one, primarily because of who he was going up against. If this were somebody else, I get you. But we can't ignore the fact that these are the Memphis Grizzlies he's been going up against. A team that's been knocking on that door, whose time may very well have finally arrived, who is accustomed to playing together, who's an elite defensive team, who's exceptionally well coached, and they're not going to let one guy beat them like that. These are the Memphis Grizzlies, and I think we have to give them credit. Again, Kevin Durant, you're right, doesn't get a pass. But to say you lost respect for him, that's going too far.
Stephen A., I'm admitting I was wrong about Kevin Durant. I have faithfully supported him for 9 years on this show, going back to his college days. I think I overestimated what he's made of. I thought he was made of the highest quality superstar stuff. I'm not sure about that. We saw what happened slowly but surely this year when he began to defer to Russell Westbrook. And I started saying, well, there's a new man. There's a new sheriff in Oklahoma City. His name is Russell Westbrook. He is now the man. Kevin Durant is not the man. He's not the Batman here. I think Russell is. And that could be for better or for worse. But I think we just saw in 4 straight games that Kevin Durant couldn't rise above the Grizzlies. And again, I have respect for him, but not that much respect. I think you're overestimating the Grizzlies here, and you're underestimating how poorly Kevin Durant played. That I overestimated him. That's I'm confessing here.
I got you. I hear you. But I'm not underestimating how poorly Kevin Durant played last night. But I think over the course of this series, if you look at it in its totality, I'm not going to say that about him. And oh, by the way, what if Kevin Durant was out and Russell Westbrook was in there? You think Russell Westbrook would have been more effective? A legitimate argument could be made that he wouldn't have been. So when you say he's the man, what are you trying to say?
Remember,
listen.
But Kevin Durant plays 7 feet tall, Stephen A. And as you always say, he can pull up from 30. I mean, he can. Yeah. But he didn't for those 4 games. I'm sorry. Skip. He missed and he missed and he missed and he missed some more.
He missed. But look at the numbers. They're dwindling. They're dwindling.
With one game,
the last 3 games, it was getting worse.
I can't roll with 4 straight failures on the part of a superstar. Yeah. I'm not sure he is. You had him as your MVP going into the season, despite LeBron had just won his ring and looked like the most dominant player in the game. And I was like, well, okay. What's that?
All right, but wait a minute. You keep bringing that up.
No, but I mean, let's analyze. I'm complimenting you.
No. Let me finish. I picked him instead of LeBron because I thought LeBron had so many weapons. Others would be doing more, which would mean he would do less. And because Kevin Durant would have to do more, he would be in position to get MVP. That's number 1. Number 2, and more importantly, again, when shots are not falling, they're not falling. If you choked, that's a different ballgame. And I think you can make that legitimate argument when it comes to the free throw line. Because if you shoot 90% from the free throw line, and then all of a sudden you get in these situations and you can't make free throws, that's a valid point.
Yeah.
So I get where you're coming from. But we also have to remember, Kobe Bryant's a 5-time champion. You know how much I love me some Kobe Bryant. Did he get swept a couple of years ago? I mean, it happens. That's all I'm saying. It happens. And Durant, the difference is Durant has never won a championship, so I get where we're coming from here. I'm just saying it's a bit strong to say you've lost respect.
Bottom line.
That's all I'm saying.
Bottom line to this. Kevin Durant is beloved by a lot of fans nationally. He's on every other commercial during the games, it
Myself
seems to me.
included.
I
Myself
understand.
included.
And he had the Not Nice campaign, but the point of it is he's nice. Everybody thinks Kevin's a nice guy. I still think we, or at least I, and I think you're with me, should be objective about the nice Kevin Durant today. He came up real small in those 4 games.
No question. He came up, like I said about LeBron a couple of years ago. If I'm going to say that about LeBron, I got to say this about KD. He came up small as mini-me.
There we go.
No doubt about it.
He's in the mini-me category today.
In the game.
Thank you.
For last night's game. Not for his overall game in this series against Memphis.
I got you.
All right, gentlemen. Memphis makes franchise history by beating the Thunder, making it to the Western Conference Finals for the first time. Coming up next.